Welcome on in to the Wildcats Today podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak, writer and editor over at Wildcats Today. I am joined by my co-host, as I always am, Carson Nash. Carson, buddy, how we doing?
Doing all right. It's a good start to the week. MLK
Recovering
Day
from the
yesterday.
loss? Recovering from the loss? Are you feeling
I'm
better?
recovering from the loss. I'm not taking it too hard, but it is a
Your
bummer.
phone was on Do Not Disturb all night on Saturday. I was worried about you.
It was. Yeah.
So
For other
I'm
reasons.
glad to know that you are now doing better, as I hope all of BBN is. But we're going to get into this Mississippi State game coming up, because I'll tell you, I think you could find similarities between Florida, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. They're very different teams to me from an Alabama and an Auburn. They're just different. These teams are like the gritty, scrappy SEC teams. Those three teams. Now, like Florida can score. A&M and Mississippi State really can't. But so they're different in ways, but they are similar in that way. But looking at Mississippi State, let's run through the numbers before we get into this conversation about this team. First of all, offense-wise, they are 165th in college basketball in points per game, scoring 75.2 a night. They only grab 11.5 offensive rebounds a contest, which is, it makes you feel a lot better compared to Texas A&M's 18 and Florida's 16. So you feel good there. Now, their defense is pretty solid. Their opponent's points per game is top 40 in college basketball. They allow 64.8 points a contest. Now, this is where it gets interesting. These two numbers are interesting to me, and they're conversation worthy. Their opponent three-point percentage is 27.7. So that means that opponents are shooting less than 30% from three against Mississippi State. And then the last stat here is their bench scores a lot of points, and we'll get into why. But their bench is 13th in college basketball, 32.44 points per game from Mississippi State's bench. So, Carson, how do you feel about this game and about this Mississippi State team?
Well, you know what? Those numbers, they are something, but they don't really concern me too much because I feel that our guards can beat their guards off the dribble, and then we'll most likely be able to have open shots, which I don't think we're going to come out and shoot 25% from three. We could miss our open shots and do that. But the bigger thing is I'm not really as scared about them as I would be like an A&M or a Florida, just because they aren't as good on the offensive rebounding end. And I think that's what really kills us. Rebounding, I feel like our defense is really needs to get better, but our rebounding is our biggest worry as of right now.
Yeah, the rebounding is a problem. I mean, Texas A&M, it was 25 offensive rebounds for 21 second chance points. I wrote a whole bunch of articles over Wildcats Today. I mean, it really felt like, and this is going to be a bit of an exaggeration, but it almost isn't, and that's why it's crazy. It felt like every time Texas A&M went down the floor, they had two, sometimes three opportunities to score points.
Well, on one of the last possessions of the game, it felt like they had 20.
Yeah, no, that was when we're trying to get the ball back to get a possession. I mean, to score points and they had the ball for a minute.
It was unreal. I've never seen anything like it.
And I mean, credit to Texas A&M. I'm not taking anything away from the Aggies. I mean, they needed that win and they went and got it.
That's heart and hustle right there.
It is. And as coaching, I like Buzz Williams. I don't like the jacket. I'm anti the jacket, but I am pro his style of coaching and the culture he builds with his teams. He just puts together a gritty basketball team.
He's a fiery guy, and his teams play like he coaches.
Exactly, and I agree with you. They crash the boards. They do a good job. I mean, I saw. Did you see the video of the judge and the prisoner doesn't get like the sentencing he wants, and he like jumps at the judge? I saw a video, and it was like Texas A&M going for an offensive rebound. And I thought that was pretty funny. But, I mean, it's accurate. If y'all have seen that video, you know what I'm talking about.
No doubt. They wanted it, and our guys didn't want it as bad as they did.
Exactly. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try something a little different as we kind of get our formatting together here on the show. But we're going to try and mix in breaking down the A&M game into previewing this Mississippi State game. And one thing as we kind of do that I want to discuss, Carson, is the defense. I mean, I was just talking to my papaw on the phone earlier, and he, who of course is a big Kentucky fan. Shout out to papaw.
We need papaw on the show.
Yes, we should make that happen. That's not.
Yeah, we got to make that happen.
But all we talk about, him and I, is how bad this defense is. The defense. This is what frustrated me. Boots Radford. If you watch the Auburn A&M game, Auburn was what they were doing, and my dad's the one that actually hinted to me at this because I didn't get to watch that game because I was at the Kentucky game. They were shading him to the left, or so that to his right a little bit. So that
because he goes left
to his
every
left.
time.
I mean, they're shading him to his left because he's left-handed. He is a put his head to the ground and go to the rim guy.
He's a drive just to go left every time.
And can he make a three here and there? Yeah, he made 3 threes. I'm not, but and if he beats you with a couple threes, fine. But what he is a put his head down and drive to the rim guy. That's who he is. And the fact that time and time and time again, he was able to do that. And it felt like at least 3 or 4 times he laid the ball in without anyone even stopping him. I mean, he just walked to the rim. It infuriates me. It truly infuriates me watching the poor defense. I'm a believer. I know there's some that will disagree with this take, but I'm just such a believer in defense's effort. I know there's technique, and you have to understand, I obviously, as there is with everything in the sport, but it's effort. It's effort. You have to say, I'm not going to let you score. Boots Radford, Tyrese Radford, you're not scoring. I'm sorry. End of story.
Yeah. And there's many things that go into that. There's many things that go into that, but you are completely correct. I think defense is just mostly effort, I would say. But
yeah,
I mean, there is luck involved. If you're in the wrong spot at some points, you're going to get beat. That happens here and there. But mostly it's an effort thing.
I mean, and this was another conversation I was having, is like, how can you, obviously effort, you can fix this with effort, but what can you do? Because Coach Cal has said in every press conference I've heard, everyone that I've been to, we're working on guarding one-on-one. We're working on this. We're trying to be able to beat your guy, on defense. Nothing's changed. This has been 2-3 weeks now that all we've heard, we're working on defense, working on rebounding. Nothing is changing. What can they do, Carson? Other than, yes, pick up the intensity, is there anything that you think they can do just flat out, like technique-wise or coaching-wise?
I'm not certified as a D1 basketball coach, so I probably wouldn't know much in that department. But I think we should trust Coach Cal. I think our players are getting beat off the dribble way too much, just way too much, and that's solely an effort thing and an athleticism thing. So hopefully that gets worked out, because the SEC is full of teams that can beat you off the dribble and have athletic pieces everywhere. That's what the SEC is in every sport. SEC is just athletes. That's why they're the best conference in mostly everything. So you got to be able to work to get some defensive stops and be more physical.
The way you chirp the Zebras, I would think that you do have that certificate, but that's a conversation for another day. This is just, I look at this and I go, and to you listeners, I'm a big believer in, of course, defense is mostly effort. I know it's not everything, but my thought is this. I don't think it should be hard in March to go, okay, fellas, this is it. We got to go lock down. We got to go play some serious defense. We got to go, because if we lose, hey, we're going home. This is over. And a lot of these guys are one and done. So what I'm hoping is that we see that pick up in March. But then on the flip side of that, it's like, I want them to be pumped up, wanting to play defense now, not in March. I'll tell you, Coach Cal said on his radio show, some of the players, and this fired me up a little bit, some of the players texted him, hey, Coach, I didn't play well enough. I love that. And we didn't get names, but just taking accountability. Hey, I didn't play well enough. I didn't play hard enough. I love that. Seeing the fire from, because here's the deal. Sometimes you're going to play a game and you're going to look back on the tape and you're going to go, man, I could have played harder. I could have played better. I could have done more.
And that's a trickle-down effect.
Exactly. And that's a leadership thing. Mm-hmm. I would be really curious to know who said that.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever the first text message was that Coach got, I would love to know who that was.
Exactly. Because that's leadership. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
think you could sit here and say it was Reeves but I mean, maybe he's that kind of leader that he
Yeah.
played a pretty good game and he said,
If
listen, I
it
got to
was
be better.
Reeves, if it was
Or
Trey,
Trey, yeah.
one of those, or even a young guy, even like Reed Shepherd,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Now, to move this conversation a little bit, I am starting to get concerned, and we do not want to create speculation here. We do not want to do anything like that. But what is going on with Adou Thiero? What is going on? I mean, are you concerned? Are you beginning to get more long-term concerned? I am a little bit. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
I'm definitely concerned. I hope it's not a nagging injury that he
Yeah.
keeps dealing with, but it's certainly not a suspension. So let's just clear that air out. Like
I haven't seen any of
it's
that.
been over Twitter. There's been a lot of people speculating that he's suspended, and that is a kid that is not suspended.
No.
So
Yeah, he's a good guy.
let's just quit those rumors right now, because that kid's given a lot to this university, and let's not throw his name under the bus like that.
Yeah.
So I will say that.
And if it is, I think we would find out. I think that's something that's something that I think they kind of have to say to the, you know what I mean? I don't think you can't fake you can't say a suspension is an injury. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
Pretty
No,
sure
you
have
can't.
to say
You
like
can't.
report suspensions within the university and stuff. So I hadn't heard that rumor.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that
did.
speculation on Twitter, which is outrageous.
Here's the deal. If you saw the fall Adou took, I get why he's banged up. I mean, it was a heck of a fall. But here's the deal. I mean, you need him. We talked about it. That was an Adou game. They're not going to go get 4th and 5th and 9th and 83rd possessions with Adou out there. He's not going to let him. He's going to get a rebound eventually. So I'd love to have Adou back out there because he's just he's a high intensity player. He's a guy who plays with a lot of effort, a lot of just heart. He's the kind of player that's so easy to root for. I love Adou Thiero, and I really want to see him back out on the floor soon.
Adou's the X factor from here on out.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be honest about it, because we lack the physicality that he brings and the size against especially these SEC teams. Now, other conferences, they might be a little smaller, not as athletic, but against the SEC, we need to do, because you saw in that A&M game, those guys were way more athletic than we were. They just were. And they crashed the boards like it, and they defended like it. They had some blocks where you're like, oh, man. But Adou does that. So that's your guy that you're missing out on. And Trey brings some physicality, but it's hard for Trey to bring all that physicality when he's playing 44 minutes a game. You get tired. I get tired. We all get tired.
Yeah. I'd get tired playing 4 minutes a game. But
2 max.
So looking, a little bit now at the Mississippi State game, I mean, I think we've hammered this defense thing a lot. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a common theme here on the Wildcats Today podcast. If they continue to not play defense, I mean, it's going to be a talking point that we have to keep bringing up. But looking more at this Mississippi State game, looking at the starting lineup, so Mississippi State goes 6'7", 6'7", 6'11", 6'2", 6'1". Kentucky, of course, goes 7'2", 6'9", 6'8", 6'6", 6'4". Looking at Texas A&M, Hubbard off the bench scares me. I watched him against Tennessee. I mean, that dude, he can lot. In that game, he had 25 points. What was he from three? Let me give you the exact number. 5 for 10 from three. Dude can light it up, and he's a freshman. Comes off the bench, kind of like a Rob Dillingham, not in as much style of play, but in the fact that he comes off the bench and kind of lights things up scoring wise. I mean, like, this Mississippi State team's interesting. Their starters against Mississippi State or against Mississippi State, against Tennessee took 3, 4, 5, 6 total threes. Their starters combined to shoot 6 threes. As a team, they shot 18. So the starting lineup isn't going to shoot a lot of threes. These guys coming in off the bench are going to shoot threes. Against Alabama for Mississippi State, we saw a very similar trend. Their starters combined to shoot 5 3-pointers. As a team, they shot 17. Their bench guys are going to come in and try and score the basketball. And that is why you're going to see their bench. That's why their bench scores 32 points a game, because they're going to shoot some threes. You got to know that. That's got to be on the scouting report. Hey, this team, these guys coming off the bench want to shoot the ball. They got a talented freshman guard in Hubbard coming off the bench, a small guy. He's a real Bruce Pearl kind of guard, 5'10", just jacks up threes. I wouldn't be surprised to see him transfer there next year. I mean, just knowing the way he plays the game. But it's that style of guard. He's a good player. You got to get a hand in his face. You got to know, hey, this guy played 22 minutes against Alabama and shot 7 threes. He shot 10 against Tennessee. Dude's going to shoot the ball. He's going to shoot the rock.
Whoever's guarding him needs to step it up.
And you got to have a hand in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time he touches the basketball, you got to have a hand in his face. If they're making contested threes, you tip your cap. You say, okay. But if you're leaving wide open shots to their shooters, that to me is incredibly frustrating. There's nothing that makes me more mad than leaving the shooters open. You got to get out to those shooters every time down the floor. I think that's something to pay attention to here.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is you can't let them have open threes. And the reason they might have open threes is because if you get beat on defense and they get the rock into Tolu Smith, who's a stud, and they start making layups and dunks, then they're going to be able to kick it out and have open shots because we're going to have to help.
They're going to work in and out rather than out in.
Yeah, and so that's how teams are beating us right now because they know they can beat us off the dribble. So they work it in, get some easy shots. Then the threes start to be more open, and that's where it hurts you. So Andrew was saying they shot 18 threes a game and 17 the other. So I think the magic number would be 8. They can't make 8 3-pointers. If they make 8 3-pointers, you're going to lose. That's just my take on it. You can't have them hit 8.
And I want to add the point. I think we kind of in the SEC we're starting to go, okay, Auburn's good and Tennessee's good and Kentucky's good. Mississippi State is a good basketball team. They are 12-4 with an ugly loss to Southern. Yes, Southern. They lost to Georgia Tech in the ACC SEC Challenge on the road, and then they're 1-2 in SEC play. Those are the other 2 losses. You throw out that Southern loss. I mean, this is, it was a 1-point loss. Obviously, you can't make an excuse for it. What I'm saying is they've, that one, they unchoke that, and you're 12-3 with losses to only Power 5 teams and a couple SEC schools. I mean, this is not a bad basketball team. It's not. If you don't play well, if they pull a Texas A&M and have an offensive explosion, we discussed they're not an offensive team. They're a defensive team. They play, hard-nosed basketball. They try, they're going to want to score with Tolu Smith. Who's still coming into his own this year. We know who he is as a player, but he hadn't played a lot this year because of injury. So this will be just his 5th game of the year. But he is a stud. I'm telling you, he's a great basketball player. And that, Tolu Smith, I want to pull up the exact height and weight on him because a player like him scares me. 6'11", 245 pounds. So
we don't have anything for that.
Yeah, and I want to get, before I say this, I want to get an official weight on Trey Mitchell because I don't know what he officially weighs. Trey Mitchell, they got him at 6'9", 231. So he's not giving up a ton of weight. Not like 30 pounds, but he's giving up some pounds there. So, and then Bradshaw, heck, he's basically the Slender Man. Bradshaw, what do they have him listed at weight-wise? 226 pounds. Tolu Smith's got about 20 pounds on him, even though he's a couple inches shorter. So Tolu Smith is going to be a problem. I'm a little concerned. And I'll be honest with you. I'm not, and I wrote this in an article, I'm not punching a wall over this Texas A&M loss. Is losing, Carson, do you like to lose? Yes or no?
I hate to lose.
Thank you. I hate
to lose more than I like to win.
God, you need to coach something. That got me fired up. That really did get me fired up.
I did.
But, we need to go to the YMCA. I need to get that energy out. Like, I'm ready to play. But
if you want to run suicides, I'll take you down to the Y.
No, we're not going to do that. But, looking at this loss to Texas A&M doesn't frustrate me too much. And it's plain and simple. We saw in the AP poll, we saw in the net rankings, you didn't drop a ton. People know that was a tough environment. They played lights out. Now, obviously, the defense has to be better. I know that all committees and all this and that know that. But that loss it's not the end of the world to me. It's just not. I think Texas A&M is a good team. I think because of a tough non-conference schedule, they were a little bit underrated. I do think they make the tournament. I could see them making a Sweet 16 run. They're going to have to get hot in SEC play, but it's a tough game on the road. You weren't going to go 18-0 in SEC play. You just weren't. Sorry. Win these games at home. Now, here's the deal, though. You got to go 2-0 this week. You have got to go 2-0 this week. This is a quad 2 win if you take down Mississippi State. I don't have the numbers on Georgia where they are on the net rankings. Georgia has been, and we'll break that down probably on Friday. Georgia's been a good team.
Should have beat Tennessee.
Yeah, they choked a little bit there. I mean, they can play. So, and they can shoot a little bit. So Georgia is the team to monitor. You go 2-0 this week, and you're 4-1 in SEC play. You go 2-0 this week, we're going to be a lot less frustrated, I think, as a fan base about that Texas A&M loss. You're not going to win them all on the road. You got a tough win on the road against Florida. You got the win at home against Missouri. You win these 2 games this week. Just keep winning basketball games. I think you got to stop looking at the record and going, you got to just keep winning basketball games. This team has won some big games. They've beaten North Carolina. They've beat Miami, which I know that we don't know how that win's going to look at the end of the year, but they've won some big basketball games. I believe this team's going to be fine. I'm not upset about this loss. And you don't want to be the cliche, well, a loss is a lesson and all that. I mean, it is, but it's like, you don't want to be that guy. But I do think that this team will grow from that, as cliche as that is to say. I think this team gets better from that loss. I think they go 2-0 this week. And but the key is, listen, if you can go undefeated at home and then, go 6-3 on the road, I'd take 15-3 in SEC play all day. So win your home games. I think you've got a really manageable. I mean, if you run through this, you got Mississippi State and Georgia at home this week. Then you got Florida back at home. Florida at home doesn't really concern me. Tennessee at home, interesting one, but still, I think you can beat them. Gonzaga obviously is not an SEC game, but I think we're going to blow the brakes off them. Ole Miss at home, overrated. Alabama at home, I think you beat Alabama at home. And then Arkansas at home, Vandy at home. I mean, I think you can go undefeated in SEC play in Rupp Arena. The key is going to be, can you find a way to win 4 more road SEC games? And that's not going to be easy, because there's a trip to Auburn, and there's a trip to Tennessee, a trip to LSU, a trip to Mississippi State. There's some tough games there, but I see a trip to Vandy. I see a win there. I see a trip to Arkansas, a trip to South Carolina against, South Carolina's played better than we thought. But what I'm saying is, long rant to get to the final point of, don't get hung up over this loss to Texas A&M. This team still has a lot in front of them, and I'm not, frankly, concerned about losing this ball game on the road, knowing that I think this team can still find a way to get 14, 15 SEC wins. If you win 14 or 15 SEC wins and beat Gonzaga, I think you're a 3 seed. A worst case scenario, worst case 4 seed.
Yeah. Well, I think you definitely don't want to start the SEC season out 2-2. So this is a must-win game tomorrow. It's a must-win game. It's a lot easier to bounce back with a win than it is a loss, because if we lose, it's going to be a little siren over our heads a little bit.
Yeah, people are going to be screaming. Yeah.
But I think you can't look too far ahead, and these guys aren't. I know our team's not going to do that. We already saw what the text messages and stuff. Yeah, it's a 5.5 point spread. We're favored.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
A
little narrow though.
The over under is 156. If I'm a betting man, I'll probably yeah, I know it's crazy. I'll probably take the Cats to cover, and I would take the over. The over's hit in 12 of the last 13 games. So
Kentucky gets the over. It feels pretty free at this point.
Yeah,
I think Kentucky covers. I do. I had them winning by 11. I think I had 82-71, which I'm pretty sure that would hammer the over.
Yeah.
I think the Cats win this one, ladies and gentlemen. I think they get back to their winning ways, and I think obviously stuff to clean up, no question about it. But I still believe in this team, and I think they're going to be special. Carson, wrap up some thoughts here. Give me a score prediction and an MVP, and then we'll call it a day.
All right, I'm going to go. I think the Cats I think the Cats get to 92. I think they have a good offensive game.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I mean, we got to upper 90s against A&M. I mean, and I get it was overtime, but
they only scored 3 points in overtime. So
exactly. We did terrible in overtime. But I think the Cats get 92. I think State will get what do I say? I think we play a little better defense. I think 76-92. I think it's a good feel-good win at home. We kind of get back on track. I think Trey Mitchell is going to have a bounce back game. I think
Okay.
he didn't play too hot against State. I would be the one to assume that he's the one that texted Cal. He shot 1 for 7 from 3, 3 for 13 from the field. So I think he's going to have a bounce back game. And I did also call Antonio Reeves to have a big game on the last pod. So hopefully my hot streak continues. Hopefully the Cats get a bounce back win. And things are looking up in Lexington, hopefully.
Yep, I'm with you. I said my score, but I'll give you my MVP. I think Bradshaw bounced back.
Okay.
I think
like
he's frustrated with himself. And when I say Bradshaw bounces back, I'm not saying he has 29 points. But if I told you he had a 12-point, 11 rebound double-double with a couple blocks, and he kind of slows Tolu Smith, I think we'd all be happy with that.
That's what we need. Hopefully his bounce
Exactly.
back is to just slow down Tolu.
Exactly. So I think Aaron Bradshaw has a bounce back game and gives us a little more confidence in him. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Wildcats Today podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Leave your score prediction and MVP prediction in the comments. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. It helps a ton. Appreciate y'all. Everybody enjoy the game coming up. We will have another breakdown before the Georgia game. So everybody have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you next time.